Imagine a country divided by an imaginary line, guarded by soldiers, but it's not North and South Korea. It has crystal clear beaches that would make the Maldives jealous, but it's far away from there. It has Greek mythology. Aphrodite was born there, but it's not Greece. And where the number of cats has long surpassed the number of residents. Welcome to Cyprus, one of the most beautiful and confusing places on the planet. Here, ancient gods share space with modern disputes. Greeks on one side, Turks on the other, and the UN trying to hold the middle ground for 50 years. Today on Bello Mundo, we're going to cross this island full of history, geopolitical conflicts, flamingos, grilled cheese, and even a wine that was served before Rome was born. Number 1. Location and geographical data. Cyprus may seem like just a tiny dot lost in the Mediterranean, but it's one of those dots that many powerful people have always wanted to get their hands on. The island is right at the crossroads between Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. If you look at a map, it is just below Turkey, close to Lebanon and Syria, with Egypt just south of it. This strategic position, in the middle of so many ancient trade routes, gives a good clue as to why so many people have fought over this piece of land throughout history. Despite being the third largest island in the Mediterranean, behind only Sicily and Sardinia, Cyprus is not that big. It has a total area of just over 3,500 square miles. But size can be deceiving, because Cyprus has everything. On the coast, the beaches have that turquoise sea, white sand, and crystal clear water that looks like something straight out of a travel agency advertisement. But just head a little inland and the scenery changes completely. There are the Troodos Mountains, with peaks reaching almost 2,000 meters in altitude. In winter, these mountains even receive enough snow to operate small ski resorts. And in summer, they become a refuge for those who want to escape the intense heat of the coast. Speaking of heat, Cyprus's climate is very generous to sun lovers. On average, the island enjoys more than 300 days of clear skies per year. In other words, it only really rains for about 2 months in winter. The rest of the time is sunny, blue skies and heat in summer, with temperatures easily reaching 30 degrees in July and August. In winter, temperatures are milder, rarely falling below 10 degrees in most cities. To complete the geographical package, there are also the salt lakes of Larnaca, which take on an extra splash of color when thousands of flamingos appear there during migration. A true postcard in shades of pink that leaves any visitor mesmerized. Number 2. History and current affairs. The history of Cyprus is basically an endless line of people wanting to control this island. Since ancient times, Greeks, Egyptians, Romans, Byzantines, and even Crusaders have passed through there. But the game got serious when the Ottoman Empire took over the island and stayed there for over 300 years. At the end of the 19th century, England appeared on the scene. The British took control in 1878 and turned Cyprus into an official colony in 1925. And so it remained until the early 60s, when the island finally gained its independence and became the Republic of Cyprus. However, independence did not exactly bring peace. From the beginning, there was a conflict between two communities that divided the island. The Greek majority, who dreamed of uniting Cyprus with Greece, and the Turkish minority, who wanted to maintain their autonomy. This political tug-of-war soon began to heat up. In 1974, the situation came to a head. A group of Greek nationalists, with the support of the military dictatorship that ruled Greece at the time, staged a coup on the island and attempted to force union with Greece. Turkey did not like the idea at all and responded with a military invasion of northern Cyprus in an operation that became known as Operation Attila. Within a few days, Turkish troops occupied about a third of the northern territory. That was when the island effectively split in two. Thousands of Greeks were expelled from the north, and thousands of Turks left the south. And in the midst of it all, the capital Nicosia was cut in half, creating the only case in the world of a capital divided between two governments to this day. Since then, an invisible line has cut Cyprus from end to end. Officially called the Green Line, it has functioned as a buffer zone controlled by UN troops since 1964. In some parts of the capital, it is visible with fences, guard posts, and barbed wire. In the rest of the island, the division is more administrative, but it remains a real border in the daily lives of residents. Today, the south is the Republic of Cyprus, internationally recognized and a member of the European Union. The north became the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, recognized only by Turkey. And the stalemate continues, with negotiations that have been going on and stalling for decades. 5 decades after the invasion, the island remains intact on the map, but divided in practice by this imaginary line that separates two peoples, two flags, and two governments. And since we're talking about history, we can't skip one of the most famous and, let's be honest, most beautiful chapters of this island. Because before all this political turmoil, even before the Romans, Ottomans, and British, Cyprus was already known as the birthplace of Aphrodite. Number 3. The legend of Aphrodite. According to Greek mythology, it was here that the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility was born. But to understand this story, we need to take a trip back to the very beginning of Greek mythology. Long before the gods of Olympus, such as Zeus, Poseidon, and Hera, there were the so-called primordial gods. Among them were Uranus, who was the god of the sky, and Gaia, who represented the earth. They were the first great parents of the universe. However, not everything was peace and love in this divine family. Uranus ended up being dethroned by his own son, Cronus, in one of those family disputes typical of Greek mythology. Cronus attacked his father and threw parts of his body into the sea. That's when Aphrodite was born. Legend has it that the goddess emerged from the sea foam mixed with Uranus's remains. The waves carried her to the coast of Cyprus, more specifically to a rock formation that is now known as Aphrodite's Rock, or Petra tou Romiou. The place still exists today and is one of the most visited tourist attractions on the island. Many people still believe that swimming around the rock brings good luck in love and youth. Whether it works or not is up to each individual to decide, but no one can argue that the scenery is worthy of a postcard. Number 4. Population, languages, and religions. Now that we understand all the historical and mystical confusion surrounding Cyprus, it's time to look at who actually lives there today. And here, as with everything else in this country, division is also present. The population of Cyprus is just over 1 million. Of this total, the vast majority, around 80%, are Greek Cypriots, who live mainly in the southern part of the island. In the north, where the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus is located, live the Turkish Cypriots, who represent approximately 20% of the total population. In addition to these two main groups, there are also small Armenian, Maronite, and Latin communities scattered across the island. This is a reflection of the many peoples who have passed through there over the centuries. When we look at languages, we see that they follow this division. In the south, Greek is the official and predominant language. In the north, Turkish is the main language. But the interesting thing is that, thanks to its past as a British colony, English is still widely spoken in much of the island, especially in urban centers and in commerce. Visitors usually get by well in this regard. In terms of religion, the division also follows the same pattern. Most Greek Cypriots follow Orthodox Christianity, more specifically the Orthodox Church of Cyprus. In the north, among Turkish Cypriots, the majority follow Sunni Islam. However, it is worth noting that Cyprus in general is a secular country, and among the younger generations, religious practice in everyday life no longer has the same importance as it did in the past. Another curious point is that, despite this clear division, the two communities share many things that are typical of Mediterranean culture. The value placed on family, the habit of gathering everyone around the table, the warm atmosphere when receiving visitors. All of this is very strong in both the south and the north. In other words, even with invisible walls and different flags, the Cypriot way of life has a lot in common. Number 5. Traditions and customs. If there is one thing that unites Greeks and Turks in Cyprus, despite all the divisions, it is their way of life. Here, the pace is typically Mediterranean, more relaxed, with lots of conversation, lots of partying, and plenty of time to enjoy life. In much of the island, the famous siesta is still sacred. Between early afternoon and mid-afternoon, shops close, the streets empty, and people go home to rest. No one is in a hurry. If the world outside is rushing by, in Cyprus the clock ticks at its own pace. Another curious detail, in both the north and south, people speak loudly. But don't be fooled into thinking they're arguing. It's just their lively and expansive way of talking, especially when the conversation is interesting and the group grows. Weekends are sacred to the family. Sunday is a day for a long lunch, the kind that starts at noon and doesn't end until mid-afternoon. Several generations sit at the same table. Dishes are passed from hand to hand, and lots of conversation flows. Now, if there is one tradition that shows how Cypriots like to celebrate, it is weddings. In both communities, Greek and Turkish, marriage is practically a national event. The ceremonies are full of symbols and rituals that have been passed down through the centuries. In the Greek community, Orthodox weddings include the exchange of flower crowns by the bride and groom, a walk in a circle around the altar, and the sharing of wine from the same chalice. Before the ceremony, there is also the kravati, a ritual where relatives throw rice, rose petals, and coins on the couple's bed, wishing them prosperity and fertility. In the Turkish community, Islamic weddings are followed by huge parties with lots of music, traditional dances, and guests who sometimes celebrate until dawn. One tradition that both communities share is the famous money dance. During the party, while the bride and groom dance, the guests pin banknotes to their clothes as a gift and blessing for the new couple. And there is a beautiful detail that shows how, despite so many differences, some things are still the same. When someone wishes the bride and groom happiness, in the south they say "Nazi sete," which means long life in Greek. In the north they say "Yaşasın," which means long live in Turkish. Ultimately, the wish is the same, that the couple will have a happy and prosperous life. Now, there is one thing that may explain a lot about the way people live there. They are known for being extremely hospitable. It is not uncommon to meet someone one day and be at their house drinking coffee the next. And when you visit someone there, it is good manners to bring a gift, whether it be a box of sweets, fresh flowers, or even a bottle of local wine. There is always room at the table for one more. And since we are talking about sitting at the table, you can't visit Cyprus without mentioning the food, because if there is one thing that unites the two communities on the island, it is the cuisine. Number 6. Unique cuisine and flavors. Cypriot cuisine is a delicious fusion of Greek, Turkish, and Mediterranean flavors. It's the kind of food that's simple but full of flavor, with a lot of history in every dish. Starting with the beloved halloumi. This cheese, made from sheep's and goat's milk, has a firm texture that allows it to be grilled or fried without melting. It is golden brown on the outside, soft on the inside, and accompanies practically every meal on the island. You can't go wrong. If you sit down at the table, you'll have halloumi. Another classic, especially in the Greek community, is kleftiko, pieces of lamb slowly roasted in a clay oven with herbs and spices. The meat is so tender it practically falls apart. But the great symbol of local cuisine is mise, a festival of small portions that arrive at the table: hummus, tzatziki, olives, stuffed vegetables, grape leaf rolls, seafood, and lots of olive oil. It's the kind of meal to sit down and enjoy without rushing. In the Turkish community, dishes such as shish kebab and börek, pasta stuffed with cheese or meat, always well seasoned, are served. To accompany the meal, there is the famous commandery wine, which holds the title of the oldest wine in the world still in production, with over 2,000 years of history. And for those who fancy something stronger, there is zivania, a local spirit made from grape pomace. Whether on the Greek or Turkish side, the truth is that Cyprus's cuisine is one of those that makes any visit even more unforgettable. Hearty, tasty food made to be shared, as is the Mediterranean tradition. Number 7. Places that tell stories. While Cyprus has a history full of conflict, it's hard not to be enchanted by the island's natural beauty. And it doesn't matter if you're a beach person or a mountain person, because here there's something for everyone. Starting with Paphos, in the southwest of the island. The city is known worldwide as the birthplace of Aphrodite, but it's much more than that. Paphos is practically an open-air museum and has been recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Visitors will find Roman ruins, such as mosaics from ancient villas, with mythological scenes preserved in impressive detail. There is also the Odeon, an ancient open-air theater, and the tombs of the kings, carved directly into the rock. It is the kind of place where history seems to be around every corner. Now, if the idea is to enjoy the sea, Cyprus offers some of the most beautiful beaches in the Mediterranean. The country is known for its 300 days of sunshine a year, and for its crystal-clear waters that seem so blue they look like a montage. The region of Ayia Napa and Protoras, in the east, has the most famous beaches, with white sand and calm seas. Fig Tree Bay in Protoras is a favorite among tourists and really lives up to its reputation. But Cyprus also surprises those who think the island is just beaches. Inland, the Troodos Mountains completely change the scenery. With peaks over 1,900 meters high, the area has charming villages, pine forests, and in winter even working ski resorts. In summer, the cooler climate attracts those who want to escape the intense heat of the coast. And as you walk through these landscapes, one thing will catch your eye: cats. Cyprus has gained a reputation for being practically an island of cats. It is estimated that the number of felines now exceeds that of human residents. They are everywhere, in the ruins, in cafes, on the streets, and even on the beaches, always getting a snack from passers-by. They are everywhere, in archaeological ruins, on the streets, on the beaches, and also hanging around restaurants and hotels, always getting a snack from tourists. However, this relationship between cats and Cyprus did not start by chance. According to local legend, in the 4th century after Christ, during a great drought, the island was invaded by poisonous snakes. To try to solve the problem, Empress Saint Helena, mother of the Roman Emperor Constantine, brought hundreds of cats from Egypt. Their mission was simple: to hunt the snakes and control the infestation. And it seems to have worked because the cats ended up staying and became part of the local culture. There is even a monastery called Saint Nicholas of the Cats, built in honor of this story. Today, many of these cats are stray, but most of the population cares for them with affection. There are organizations and even hotels that feed, sterilize, and provide shelter to keep the population healthy. For visitors, Encountering these felines scattered across the island ends up being another charm of Cyprus. And if you are one of those who loves cats, get your cell phone ready, because there will be no shortage of beautiful photos. The most curious thing is that even in such a small area, in just a few hours by car, you can see snow-capped mountains, flamingos landing on lakes, crystal-clear beaches, and at the same time, be immersed in two cultures that divide the island, with all the differences and similarities between the Greeks and Turks. Cyprus manages to bring together so much in such a small space, and perhaps that is exactly what makes it so unique. Now tell me, which of these curiosities surprised you the most? The divided capital? The goddess who was born on a beach? Or the cheese that doesn't melt? Tell us in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell, because on the next destination, Bello Mundo will take you to another surprising corner of the planet. See you there.